Yep.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli. With me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it is 10 a.m. on the East Coast of the United States, which means everybody pens down, knives, forks down, cups of
I
coffee down.
wish. I wish.
It's the live stream from the Gaggle. It's the moment everyone's been waiting for. So, Peter, how are you?
I'm covering a third war. What do you mean, how am I?
So, you're covering a third. So, it's very not at all surprisingly that having you spent all of yesterday everyone talking about the American attack on Iran, and as I say, not surprisingly, Israel has continued cheerfully attacking Iran, and indeed escalating the targeting, which is all described very lovingly by the media, how they've now gone way beyond any of the previous targets. And here's the story in, I think it was the Washington Post. This is the guy. No, here's the. No, let me just. Sorry. Oh,
Yeah, well, the Washington Post has had a lot of practice. This is just a redo of 2003 with the invasion of Iraq.
yes,
So,
that's right. That's right. Exactly.
and the attacks that George is talking about is dismantling Iranian
Right.
society, not its military.
Right.
You know,
Yes, that's right.
it's
So this is what I.
dismantling,
Yes, that's
dismantling Iranian society, like they did
exactly.
in
That's right.
Lebanon, and obviously they outdid themselves in Gaza.
That's right. So here's the story that's in the Washington Post, and it said Israel said Monday that it was striking targets linked to Iranian state oppression, because Israel is very concerned about state
Well,
oppression.
at least the Washington Post put it in air quotes. Thank you very
Expanding the scope of its attacks to symbols such as the country's notorious Evin prison. Always love it, notorious Evin prison, in a deviation from its stated war aims of degrading Tehran's nuclear and ballistic missile programs and any existential threats to Israel. Now, notice they say it's a deviation.
much.
They have already spoken about attacking and assassinating Khamenei, the supreme leader. So it was already, they had far more extensive goals in mind. And so the business that it was just always somehow about nuclear and ballistic missile programs is of course. Then it says the Israel Defense Forces is currently carrying out an unprecedentedly powerful strike against regime targets and instruments of state oppression in the heart of Tehran. So that's the defense ministry. And then it says among the targets, it said the IDF hit Evin prison, where political prisoners and regime opponents are held. And then
Well, I
and
mean, that's a very weird target. I mean, you are liberating the political prisoners by killing them.
well, that's very interesting
What?
because they did this. NATO did this when they bombed Yugoslavia in 1999. They bombed the prison. And then what happened is, hey, they killed the prison inmates. And then NATO turned around and claimed, oh, it was the Serbian government that executed the prisoners. And in fact, it was one of the charges against Milosevic that they executed the prisoner. They never had the slightest evidence for it. But that was the point. They hit the prison. They killed the prisoners inside. But what happens? I mean, they're sitting ducks inside a prison, and then they turn around and accuse the Serbian government. I think this is the same thing. It's the same playbook. So that when they do this, and then all these prisoners are dead, they're going to turn around and say Tehran has executed all of
Yeah.
its political prisoners.
Well, you'd think you'd want to free those prisoners to cause mischief, but no, they didn't.
No, I don't think so. I think this is a setup. I mean, they always play from the same playbook. I mean, they don't change the script that
Well,
much.
they freed the prisoners, in a way,
Right,
from
but it's not
from
clear.
this worldly existence. Okay.
That's right, exactly. But as always happens, whenever they report on what Israel has done, they never go to the next step, which is to find out, well, was this successful? What did they accomplish? Now, when Iran strikes anything in Israel, we're told, nah, it was rubbish. A couple of windows broken. The odd brick fell out. No one injured. No one even so much got a.
Unless it's a hospital.
Yeah, I guess unless it's a hospital. Yeah. So that was the Washington Post story, and then it went on that this is Israel appeared to step up its attacks in general Monday, with several waves of strikes hitting nuclear, military, and government. Blah blah blah. Iran's judiciary confirmed that Israeli strikes hit the prison, and said sections of the facility were damaged. The judiciary's official Mizan news outlet said the situation was under control. The extent of the damage could not immediately be verified. Iranian state television said the gate of the prison was hit. Now, of course, another aspect of it is, I mean, they say these are political prisoners, but, they may well be serious criminals. The best thing is, hey, well, let's unleash a whole bunch of serious criminals or whatever, rapists, child molesters. Well, let's just unleash them on Iranian society. That because we love the Iranian people so much so that we want to just unleash a whole bunch of criminals on them.
Trump wants to make Iran great again.
He wants to make Iran great again, and and that, of course, does raise a very interesting question because, well, we'll talk about that in a moment. I just want to finish off as to what's been happening today, because remember, this is all after everything was supposed to be about these nuclear. That's the message is it's all about Iran's nuclear weapons program, even though they haven't been able to prove that there's any kind of a weapons program. And then again, the Financial Times. Notice they always use the same language. All these stories are all cooked in the same Indian restaurant, so to speak. Notorious. Everything is notorious. It's as it strikes symbolic regime targets. Why is a prison symbolic? I mean,
I was hoping you would answer that for us, George. I don't know why.
And that
is it like the Old Bailey or something like that?
I guess so, but the Old Bailey, no one ever thought, the Old Bailey. And in any case, the Old Bailey is a courtroom. It's not. I mean,
yeah, but I'm just saying, the symbolic value.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that, but I've never heard the Old Bailey being a symbol of the regime in Great Britain.
So we're going to have the sleeper cells in America attack the vacated Alcatraz prison. I mean, I don't.
The vacated. And then it says Israel has launched airstrikes against a series of symbolic regime-linked targets in Tehran, including the notorious Evin prison and headquarters of the Basij secret police.
Oh, I know. The name of the prison is Notorious Evin. That's the name of the prison, right?
Yes.
They forgot to capitalize it. Why do they have to keep using the Notorious over and over again?
And then so the Israeli military said the apparent broadening of its aerial campaign against Iran had also targeted several other sites belonging to the country's internal security forces and the Revolutionary Guards. No one ever asks whether any of these claims are true.
Exactly, George. I mean, the precision attacks and all of this. No, they're just lobbing missiles to create fear, chaos, destruction. Right. That's what they're doing. That's exactly what they're doing. There's a pattern here. We see it over and over again. They want to destroy civil society that will enact regime change. Right. It's very simple.
That's right. That's what they're doing it chaos. And of course, Israel is doing what it always does, and saying, well, we're going to wrap this up in the next couple of days. We're almost done. We've almost finished hitting all the targets. And then Netanyahu said that this is a really successful campaign. He's going to wrap it up in the next few days. And then, surprise, surprise, it's not going to be wrapped up in the next few days. But that's it. But then he gets this great publicity of, oh, it's all going to be wrapped up. The 24 or 36 hours, and it's done. Everyone will be able to go about their normal day-to-day lives. And so is the rest of that story. And then he says, this Israel's defense minister Israel Katz said the strikes on regime targets in Tehran would continue as long as Iran kept firing missile barrages at Israel. Again, this is in self-defense, retaliation, so on. While Israel has not made regime change a formal goal of its war with Iran, numerous officials have suggested it could be a consequence of the campaign.
No, there are Israeli officials of long standing that everything would be fine up until we change the regime in Iran. That's not me. Well, that's lazy reporting. I mean, do a little digging, okay?
That's right. So now the thing was that yesterday. One other thing that we haven't really talked about is the contribution of and we should just mention it because it's such an important aspect of the story, is the E3. The E3.
Almost forgot about them.
Everyone does this. The E3 issued a statement on Sunday after the American attack, and I do think that that should be covered. I mean, I think it's terrible the way the media have not covered the E3 statement issued after the American attack. So let's take a look at that statement, because it's it's powerful. It's a very, very powerful statement, and
in another lifetime, it was eagerly anticipated, but not anymore.
Yes. George. So no. So this is this is in German. Gemeinsames Statement der E3 Staaten zu den Entwicklungen in Iran. But it's always the rest of it is in English. It's in English.
It's always threatening in German.
So, yes, it does a little bit. And it says, we have discussed the latest developments in the Middle East earlier today. We reiterate our commitment to peace and stability for all countries in the region. We affirm our support for the security of Israel. We have consistently been clear that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon and can no longer pose a threat to regional security.
Did they put this together in a wine bar? It sounds, kind of lounging around, a penny for your thoughts, it's.
That's right.
We're on the verge of World War III, and we have discussed.
That's right. That's right. But it's always, note all the cliche. We affirm our support to the security of Israel, as if anyone had ever doubted this.
Well, who started it?
Who started it? And why does Israel get to have security, but nobody else does? Why is it the only country in the world that apparently is entitled to security, but nobody else is entitled? Iran apparently is not entitled to security. We have been consistently clear that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon and can no longer pose a threat to regional security. So Israel, which has been, bombing how many countries? So it's hard to keep track of all the countries Israel has been bombing in recent months. And now it's been bombing Iran. But apparently that Israel is not a threat to regional security. And then he goes on, earlier today, the United States has conducted targeted military strikes against nuclear facilities in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. Our aim continues to be to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. We call upon Iran to engage in negotiations leading to an agreement that addresses all concerns associated with its nuclear program.
Are these people asleep the last few months?
Yes, they have. It's remember the E3 had been the ones who had negotiated the JCPOA, because that was their deal. So say our aim continues to be to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. Well, that's why you had an agreement. And then it says, we stand ready to contribute to that goal in coordination with all parties. We urge Iran not to take any further action that could destabilize the region. So if you retaliate, as is your right under the UN Charter and under natural law, then you are destabilizing. You cannot destabilize things.
So if Iran defends itself, it's destabilizing.
Yes, it is. It's destabilizing. We will continue our joint diplomatic efforts to diffuse tensions and ensure the conflict does not intensify and spread further. And then Chancellor Schmerz on Monday said there was no reason to criticize the United States over its strikes on 3 nuclear sites in Iran. In a speech to the Federation of German Industries, Merz said, there's no reason to criticize what America did at the weekend. Yes, it is not without risk, but leaving things as they were was not an option either.
So his concern is the risk, not that it was a gross violation of international law, an unprovoked attack. But he's worried about
the risk. But the strange the thing about that is that, remember, on Friday, the E3 were meeting with Iran's foreign minister in Geneva. That was a meeting. There was negotiations. Even as they were negotiating, the United States was preparing to launch its attacks. Now, somebody is acting in bad faith here. Now, either the Europeans didn't know what the United States was doing, in which just shows how irrelevant they are, or they did know and they were not negotiating in good faith. Either way, the one party that wasn't acting in good faith was Iran, because Iran went to Geneva and negotiated, just as Iran had negotiated with all of the American interlocutors. So the sheer, I know, the sheer brazenness.
Yeah, there's plenty of blame to spread around here. Okay.
That's right. But yesterday was an interesting day, because we had, remember when Trump made that announcement, and then he had these 3 mummies standing behind him. It was like this is the tomb of Tutankhamun, and there was the vice president, the secretary of state, and the defense secretary, all looking very, very somber. And Trump, I think, with 2.5 minutes or whatever that announcement took, and then they left. But however, those 3 mummies took to the airwaves yesterday, and the message they put out was, it's not a regime change operation. We're not doing regime change. We're not doing regime change. This is very, very limited. We want peace. This is a peace. Trump
I did like how J.D. Vance said, unlike previous presidents, Trump isn't dumb.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
You know what they called the operation targeting the 3 nuclear? You know what they called the operation? I think Pete Haig said he named it Midnight Hammer, which I think is
Midnight Hammer. That's the name of the operation. Yeah,
that's a lifestyle choice of his. Okay, being hammered at midnight. Okay.
Well, it's funny because Midnight Hammer is that's if you watch it on British TV, late night horror movies, as used to be my wont. That would be like Midnight Hammer, because the Hammer movies, they made these awful, trashy horror movies in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. So when you say Midnight Hammer, great. Now we're going to watch a couple of terrible horror movies.
That's what we're watching. That's what we're watching now.
Yes. But so they went on all the TV shows, and they had to say, yes, America really wants peace. It's really, the ball is in Iran's court, really, what it wants to negotiate. It's not clear what the negotiation is about. So, here's first of all, here's Vice President Vance.
Here we go.
negotiations. I mean, the Iranian foreign minister responded to the strikes this morning saying Israel and the U.S. have, quote, blown up diplomacy. Mr. Vice President, is there any real hope for diplomacy, or is diplomacy dead at this point?
Well, I think the foreign minister is exactly wrong. We didn't blow up diplomacy. We only took this action, Kristen, when it was clear, as the president said, that the Iranians were tapping us along. I think it's important for the American people to appreciate here that if you go back to March of this year, we had the entire administration engaged in this diplomatic effort. And frankly, in March of this year, we had some optimism. How do we get from there to now? And the
How did you get from there to now? How did you get there from that? That's the question. George and I have been asking now for 10 days.
Right.
Why?
Right. That's right.
That's the only question I have. Why?
Right. That's right. That's right. Exactly.
I'm sorry. The Iranians were stonewalling us. They weren't taking this seriously. They were trying to draw this process out as long as possible so that they could rebuild their nuclear weapons program without the threat of American action.
Rebuild?
Which would take out this nuclear facility in particular. The president decided to take it, but we didn't blow up the diplomacy. The diplomacy never was given a real chance by the Iranians. And our hope, Kristen, as the president said repeatedly, is that this maybe can reset here. The Iranians have a choice. They can go down the path of peace, or they can go down the path of this ridiculous brinksmanship of funding terrorism, of trying to build a nuclear weapon. And that's just not
projection. Total projection.
Yeah.
Taking.
But the strange thing is and we've talked about this many times before. This is, but they made their reputation attacking George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction. They had a much stronger case than this. Here, you don't have any case. They keep talking about these nuclear weapons program. You haven't come up with the slightest scrap of evidence, no evidence that there was ever any kind of an Iranian nuclear weapons program. Nothing. You don't have a dodgy dossier. You can't even present us with a CIA finding.
Where's the yellow cake?
Where's the yellow cake? Exactly. Our British friends, you don't even have our British friends who just now rushed in with some latest intelligence.
The United States can accept. I want to say something, Kristen, just to the Iranian leadership. Look, they have tried to build a nuclear weapons program. That program is now destroyed. They tried to build a conventional missile program to attack neighbors in the region. That missile program has shown to be a failure. They have funded terrorism aggressively in the region, and now most of their terrorism proxies are destroyed. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead and give peace a chance if they're serious about
it. President Trump, as a sort of John Lennon, we are saying, give peace a chance. Give peace a chance. So I think it's just mind-boggling. Give peace a chance after you, in collusion with Israel, launched 10 days of attacks,
and after months of transparently deceptive strategy. Okay,
right.
The Trump administration didn't give negotiations a chance.
No.
Remember, everyone, Iran was sitting at the table waiting for Witkoff to show up.
That's right.
It's JD. This is memory holds forever.
Oh yeah,
forever.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
You blew your 2028 chances right now. You're done.
Absolutely.
You're done. You know who you pumped up, JD? Marco Rubio, because he's going to be long gone.
That's right. It's very important to remember because these things are memorialized. We're on to something new tomorrow. They'll be memorialized. Just like Jeb Bush's campaign collapsed really within a few weeks of the start in 2016. Just like Colin Powell, who had built up this sterling reputation over decades. He served, served Reagan and Bush, and then he served Clinton, and everybody thought the world of Colin Powell. Now he's regarded as a joke. So these things are memorialized.
He died. Colin Powell died in shame. Everyone.
In shame. Yeah.
He died in shame.
Right.
Last 2 decades of a decade and a half.
Decade
He
and a half,
lived in shame.
Yeah. 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 It only takes, one bad mistake, and you've besmirched everything else that you've done in the past.
States is too.
So has the administration received any messages from the Iranians since the attack overnight?
Well, Kristen, I think as we sit here, it's been about 12 hours since what happened last night. We have received some indirect messages from the Iranians, and it's possible.
Let's go a little bit further and talk about it. All right, let's go to the next one.
President Trump last night also threatened additional military action if Iran retaliates or if peace does not come quickly. How quickly are we talking about? Are we talking about days? Are we talking about weeks?
Well, look, John, I'll let the president make those determinations, actually, but we're now going to have a serious conversation about how to get rid of Iran's nuclear weapons program permanently, meaning they have to choose not to have a nuclear weapons program and they have to give this thing up. Now, if you go back a little bit, John, what we have said consistently and repeatedly is they cannot have a nuclear weapon. We accomplished the goal of putting them back substantially last night, but there are two big things that the Iranians are going to have to choose from here. Number one, do they attack American troops in the region? If they do, as the president said, you're going to see overwhelming force from the Americans. If they continue to pursue a nuclear weapon, you're also going to see overwhelming force from the American people. So we've got really
the American people.
If they make smart decisions, I think they're going to.
That's right, the American people.
No.
That's
No. You misspoke, JD.
Yeah.
Find us willing to work with them. If they continue to support terrorism, nuclear weapons programs, then they're going to find overwhelming American force from the American military. That is really the choice before the Iranians, and that's a choice only they can make.
So what retaliation are you expecting? I mean, I know what you're hoping for, but they have vowed retaliation. What are you prepared for? What are you expecting from the Iranians?
Well, it's always hard to guess what the other side is going to do, but what we're prepared for is if they attack us in a maximal direction, first of all, we've got maximum defensive posture. I think that we're going to be able to defend as many of our people as possible. And of course, I'd encourage Americans to pray for our guys in the Middle East because, yes, they are under a significant amount of duress and a significant amount of threat right now. But then, of course, John.
Well,
who put them there at risk? For God's sake, man.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, you say, yes, you put them at risk. You still haven't explained why, because you still haven't come up with any justification whatsoever on any reading of what the United States did. You can't talk about anything. Oh, this is a preemptive or whatever. If it's preemptive, then you at least have to show that there was a moment of danger. You had to preempt an imminent attack. You haven't even showed that there's a nuclear weapons program.
If the Iranians attack us, they're going to be met with overwhelming force. And I don't think the president could be clear about this. If you look at what we did yesterday, John, we did not attack the nation of Iran. We did not attack any civilian targets. We didn't even attack military targets outside of the 3 nuclear weapons facilities that we thought were important to accomplish our goal of preventing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. So how Iran responds, I think, is ultimately the ball is in their court. But if you look at what we did, it was very precise, very narrowly tailored to our objective. And if the Iranians decide to expand this, then that's ultimately their decision, and the president of the United States will respond in kind.
But George,
now, notice this is
an act of war. I mean,
of course, it's an act of war. It's an act of war, but he's attempting to say, no, not an act of war at all. We just hit very narrow targets. And then, of course, people have made jokes. Well, I mean, I guess Emperor Hirohito could say on December the 7th, 1941, this is not an act of war. We were very, very narrow targeted. We just hit the headquarters of the U.S. Pacific Fleet. But absolutely, we are not at war with the American people. We love the American people. We didn't hit any civilian targets. We were very focused. That is the logic. But nonetheless, it's very important just to keep in mind what Vance has said here, because as we find, Trump just dumped on all of this later in the day.
So you're raising the real possibility that this is not the end of this conflict, but the beginning of this conflict. U.S. response to Iranian retaliation. There's one thing the president has been really consistent about throughout his entire life in politics, and that is the idea of no more wars. Let me play you what he said on election night and, of course, at his inauguration.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. We will measure our success not only by the battles we win, but also by the wars that we end, and perhaps most importantly, the wars we never get into.
So let me ask you, what do you say to those, including some of the president's strongest supporters, who are really worried this morning that the United States is now involved in yet another protracted war, conflict, whatever you want to call it, in the Middle East?
Well, first of all, John, I think the president has been very clear that we are not interested in protracted conflicts in the Middle East, but there's a question about how do you achieve peace, and we believe the way that you achieve peace is through strength. We took a very narrow and limited approach to destroying the Iranian nuclear program, John. That's what the president did, and I think that, more than anything, is going to ensure peaceful resolution in that region of the world. You can't be weak. You can't sit there and allow the Iranians to achieve a nuclear weapon, John, and expect that's going to lead to peace. It would lead to absolutely disastrous military conflict all over the Middle East. We don't want.
No,
this is.
It would create deterrence. That's what it would create. Everybody, the biggest mistake Iran has made is not develop and
Of course.
That's the biggest mistake they made.
There's a huge mistake.
And you know what? If they had done it, then there could be the rightful call of a demilitarized Middle East. Israel, you got to get rid of yours. Iran has to get rid of yours. Then we have a denuclearized region. That's how it should have played out. So I blame the Iranians for getting.
That's the question, because after what they saw, remember, Khamenei saw what happened to Libya. He saw what happened to neighboring Iraq. You can't just keep that fatwa going against nuclear weapons. You have to say, hey, look, you need nuclear weapons, particularly when you're up against two nuclear powers who are determined to destroy you. You have to then wonder what the hell are you playing at? Just simply saying, oh no, we're not going to go for nuclear weapons. Of course, this moment was going to come.
Yeah,
no one could have said it's going to come. So that was Vance, and then of course our friend, Secretary of State, National Security Advisor, major foreign policy maven, Marco Rubio, also took to the airwaves yesterday.
Something else was going to happen. And I think they thought they were dealing with a different kind of leader, like the kinds of leaders they've been playing games with for the last 30 or 40 years. And they found out that's not the case. So this mission was a very precise mission. It had 3 objectives, 3 nuclear sites. It was not an attack on Iran. It was not an attack on the Iranian people. This wasn't a change move. This was designed to degrade and or destroy 3 nuclear sites related to their nuclear weaponization ambitions. And that was delivered on yesterday. What happens next will now depend on what Iran chooses to do next. If they choose the path of diplomacy, we're ready. We can do a deal that's good for them, the Iranian people, and good for the world. Yeah. If they choose another route, then there'll be consequences for that.
Let me follow up on a phrase you just word, weaponization ambitions. Are you saying there that the United States did not see intelligence that the Supreme Leader had ordered weaponization?
That's irrelevant. I think that question being asked.
I have to say, I found the way she formulated that question confusing. That was an important question. She completely muffed it by putting in all these negatives, and then you kind of I didn't understand what she was saying. But in any case, he understood what she was getting at. So what his response?
That's in the media. That's an irrelevant question.
No,
They have
that is
everything
the
they need
key
to build
point
the
in
weapon.
U.S. intelligence assessments. You know
No,
that.
it's not.
Yes, it was.
No, it's
that
not.
the political
No,
decision had not
I know
been
that
made.
better than you know that, and I know that that's not the case.
But
You don't
I'm
know-
asking you
don't
whether
know
the
what you're
order
talking
was
about.
given.
And the people who say that, it doesn't matter if the order was given. They have everything they need to build nuclear weapons. Why would you bury things in a mountain, 300 feet under the ground?
Right.
Why would you bury why do they have 60% enriched uranium? You don't need 60% enriched uranium. The only countries in the world that have uranium at 60% are countries that have nuclear weapons.
No,
Right.
that's not true.
Make it 90.
That's not true.
But what's funny? Why did they bury it in the mountain?
Yeah, because Israel has a habit of bombing Iran. Okay.
Exactly. So that's
And again, everyone, rightly or wrongly, and it will be debated a long time, enhancing the enrichment process, going through the cycle. That was Iran's leverage to be at the negotiating table. Now, if that was that a good strategy or a bad strategy, it'll be debated for a very long time. Okay. Anyway, Iran has the right to develop nuclear energy. Okay, it's a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. What's it doing with 60%? Well, that's up to Iran. Okay,
that's right.
60%, and Rubio is lying through his teeth here. Brazil has more than 60%. Germany does. Japan does. Okay, they're not interested in nuclear weapons. That doesn't mean Iran is. Okay, that was part of the negotiation gambit. That Professor Morandi told me 15 years ago, Iran started enrichment to bring the U.S. to the negotiating table for sanction relief. All they wanted was sanction relief. You must give up your nuclear weapons program. We'll give it up. Here you go. Take it. But you have to get the lower and get rid of all the sanctions. That was the whole negotiating approach.
No, that's right. That was the thing. And of course, the 60%, they only moved up to 60% in response to the U.S. withdrawal from the JCPOA and from the E3's refusal to essentially maintain the sanctions-free regime. Because that was the deal in the JCPOA, that if any party withdraws, the sanctions relief will still take place, because they all knew ahead of time some point the United States was going to withdraw. I mean, in other words, it was there, it was written into the agreement, in the expectation that the United States would withdraw, but the sanctions relief against Iran would continue. However, it didn't, and then so Iran just continued to enrich as leverage, in the hope that there will be some negotiated return.
And there were up until 10 days ago.
Right.
They have all the elements. Why do they have a space program? Is Iran going to go to the moon? No, they're trying to build an ICBM.
No, but that's a question. That's a question. That's a question of intent. And in the intelligence assessment that it was that Iran wanted to be a threshold state and use this leverage. I'm talking about the public March assessment, and that's why I was asking you if you know something more from March.
That's also an inaccurate representation of it. That's an accurate representation of it. That's not how intelligence is read. That's not how intelligence is used.
This is why this guy is never going to be president.
What the IAEA knows. They are enriching uranium well beyond
Yes, that's right.
Now, why would you enrich uranium at 60%?
Right.
If you don't intend to one day use it to take it to 90 and build a weapon.
But this is very, very interesting, because what they're trying,
8,000 short-range missiles and 2,000 to 3,000 long mid-range missiles.
Because again, what he says here. Let's just look at what it was Tulsi said in March. Let's take a look. This is the and because it's important. I mean, she's now backtracking on what she said. This is what she said before Congress, and this is her testimony, March the 25th, 2025. Iran continues to seek expansion of its influence in the Middle East, not a crime. Despite the degradation to its proxies and defenses during the Gaza conflict, Iran has developed and maintains ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and UAVs. including systems capable of striking U.S. targets and allies in the region. So nothing here about ICBMs. And then, of course, she says the IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program he suspended in 2003. The IC is closely monitoring if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we have seen an erosion of decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public.
Oh, wow. Speech problem in Iran.
Speech problem, exactly. Likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus. Likely. That likely is doing an awful lot of work there. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons. Okay. Where does it say that it has a nuclear weapons program and that somehow Khamenei has signed off on a nuclear weapons program? So that was her testimony.
And folks, this has been the opinion of the intelligence community, at least going back to 2011 and 2013, maybe even to 2009, yes. But I'm sure 2011 and 2013.
Right. That's right. That's right. Because I think it was earlier. I think it was even in the George W. Bush era, because they say he ended it in 2003. So it was in the George W. When Bush said no to Netanyahu, that was the assessment under George W. Bush. I think Cheney wanted to go and bomb Iran. Bush said no.
Real men go to Tehran, right?
Anyway, he goes on here.
That you continue to develop. Why do you do all these things? They have everything they need for a nuclear weapon. They have the delivery mechanisms. They have the enrichment capability. They have the highly enriched uranium that is stored. Yes. That's all we need to see.
Right. Well,
especially in the hands of a regime that's already involved in terrorism and proxies and all kinds of things around. They are the source of all.
Yes, and no one's disputing that. I'm not doing.
I'm disputing it. No one's disputing. I'm disputing it. No one's disputing. I love it. No one's disputing it. Hey.
Yeah, but don't you see how they're generating consensus?
Right.
The Overton window is so small. Yeah, she's showing that she's in opposition, but it's like, Bible paper thin.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's very important that you're absolutely right. It's this manufacturing a consensus. So everybody then agrees, and then you have to then step by step agree with all the different premises. So you have to say Iran is the source of all instability in the Middle East. Okay, well, no one's disputing that.
Yeah,
Iran.
Why are they having this conversation? It's nothing to do with Iran. Has nothing to do about this phantom weapons program. This is about Donald Trump.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This is what this is all about. They want to find a way where Trump is wrong. They don't care about the particulars, okay? This is a wedge issue that they think that they can re-energize the Democratic Party, maybe, attracts a huge number of independents, and maybe start picking away at MAGA. This is what this whole conversation's about.
Well, there's no question. However...
And where's Israel in all of this?
No, that's
completely fraudulent conversation.
Right. No, all of that is correct. However, Trump has opened the door to this because Trump he secured all of these libertarians who really never trusted him. Libertarians were very suspicious of Trump, particularly after COVID, particularly during his years in office when he didn't really end all of those wars. So the libertarians, but they came around because the Biden years were so awful. They came around. Now they're going to leave, just like all the anti-war people are just going to leave. All the Dave Smiths and all the others who came around to supporting Trump, Joe Rogan and the rest of them. They can say, well, he was never a libertarian. He just fooled us. And particularly on free speech issues, well, that's a different issue. But it was a fraud. Once you lose them, it's it's a 50-50 country, more or less. You lose them, now you're done. You simply don't have.
I don't know
The
what this lady's name is. Okay,
I think Margaret Beckett.
She must be giddy that there's trouble in MAGA world. That's what this whole broadcast is about.
Right.
The constitutionality of it, the international law, and any of these issues being brought up.
No.
Why is the United States projecting such massive power against the country that has not attacked it? And when its chief ally in the region attacked Iran. I mean, can you answer those questions, Marco? She won't ask those questions.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Is American security in Europe, in Israel security synonymous, Mr. Secretary? You're the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor for a man that got into office on America First.
Right.
Are they synonymous?
Correct.
You're
right. No, that's one of those issues that never gets asked. Here it goes on.
And they were censured at the IAEA for that enrichment and for violating their non-proliferation agreements. I was simply asking if we had intelligence.
All of that is at least you're mischaracterizing it. That was just simply they were in violation of a number of its, the provisions of that agreement. There's nothing there in the IAEA report that suggested that Iran was weaponizing its enriched uranium. And, Iran, and we discussed this before, Iran disagreed with the findings of that IAEA report. So you could just simply say, you can cite it all you want, but Iran had its own arguments that said, no, this is incorrect.
That there was an order to weaponize, because you said weaponization ambitions.
Well, we have intelligence that they have everything they need to build a nuclear weapon, and that's more than enough.
Okay.
So notice he's notice the sliminess here. They had the capability of building a nuclear weapon, and that's enough. So when she asked, did the order go out to build a nuclear weapon? Oh, they had the capability. Well, that's not enough to say, oh, well, they had the capability. A lot of people have a lot of capability to do a lot of things. The issue is, are they going to do it?
And the IAEA rather wimpishly came out saying that their report isn't a justification for an attack on Iran. They did, at least Grossi came out and said that. But, a day late and a buck short, dude. Okay?
Yes, that's right.
On the policy front, there are personnel throughout the Middle East from the United States, in Bahrain, in Kuwait, in other bases. If those countries are attacked by Iran because of their association with the United States, will the United States defend them?
Well, that's exactly why they're there. That's a great point, actually.
Yeah, that's a great point. They're there. They're there what to essentially to provoke conflict. That's why they're there. But then
they're making sure that they're carbon neutral. That's what they're there for. Okay. What a stupid question.
Yeah. Naturally, he's going to hit it out of the ballpark. Yeah. And then it was the turn of Pete Hegseth.
Oh, Midnight Hammer.
has not been about regime change. The president offered precision operation to neutralize the threats to our national interests posed by the Iranian nuclear program and the collective self-defense of our troops and our ally Israel. As the president has directed and made clear, this is most certainly not open-ended. It doesn't mean it limits our ability to respond. We will respond if necessary. The most powerful military in the world is postured and prepared to defend our people.
It's not open-ended, but it's not.
Yes. Not open-ended.
It's not open-ended, but it could be open-ended, but it's not open-ended.
Exactly. Yes. If we decide to open it, then it won't be open-ended.
And then if we open it, it will never end.
It's a focused, powerful, and clear mission on the destruction of Iranian nuclear capabilities. Those were the targets. That's what was struck. That's what was overwhelming. That's what was overwhelming. That's what the Iranian regime needs to understand. As the president put out last night, he wants peace. There needs to be a negotiated settlement here. We ultimately demonstrated that
Iran cannot have a nuclear capability. That is a very clear mission set on this operation.
So that's the that was the message that was coming. They all went on. They all had that message. Right? This is what you're supposed to say when you go on those Sunday talk shows. No, we got this. It's not against the Iranian people. This is very, very, it's so narrowly focused. So narrow that you almost can't see it. It's surgical. It's as narrow, like a laser. We were laser focused on Iran's nuclear capabilities, and absolutely nothing going beyond that. And then yesterday, Trump sort of was watching all of this, and he sent out this truth, and here it is. He says, well, first he sent it out and said, the damage to the nuclear sites in Iran is said to be monumental. The hits were hard and accurate. Great skill was shown by our military. Thank you. And then he says, it's not politically correct to use the term regime change. But if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? And then he puts in MAGA, make Iran great again. It's not politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, I don't know what that means, why wouldn't there be a regime change?
Well, I've never come across anyone saying, "Oh, Peter, that's politically incorrect to say regime change." I think it stands on its own. I don't understand how you could interpret that term any differently than its straightforward way. Regime change the regime. But
yes,
how is it politically incorrect? Where is that coming from?
I have no idea. I have no idea why he even used the term politically incorrect. People throw that around. I think they may mean it's politically controversial. Then they call it politically incorrect. But nobody actually even knows what does the term politically incorrect mean. So he throws it out there. But he says, well, it's politically incorrect. So this was after all it was his people, his spokesman, who came out and said, oh, we're not interested in regime changes. See, so then I think this annoyed him and said, well, what do you mean we're not interested in regime change? Yeah, you bet we're interested in regime change. We want to make Iran great again. So it's like he watched this and he said, yeah, absolutely, we're interested in regime change.
So it's not about nuclear weapons?
Not according to Trump.
Not according to Trump. Okay. Well, okay. Trying to be as objective as possible, attacking these 3 nuclear sites. Yes, I suppose it's fair to assume that if Iran were pursuing a weapon, it might set them back months, years. I don't know. Okay.
Right.
Regime change is a different kettle of fish. You got your work cut out for you. Okay.
Right.
It's 90+ million people. It's a huge country, has assets all over the place. And we know, going all the way back to the Second World War, ask the people, the descendants of Dresden, you're not going to affect regime change through bombing. You're going to have to do much, much more. Well, the added caveat, and we have seen this with Operation Spiderweb against Russia, using the Ukrainians as a surrogate, is that this covert asymmetrical stratagem, which is being deployed. That's what Iran has to worry. They have to worry more about that than American bombs, in my opinion.
Well, that's right, but I think the bombs, I think, do have an effect in showing that the Iranian regime is weak. I mean, it is shown weak. Hey, you pretty much have kind of do whatever you feel like doing, and you can just we'll target this, we'll target that, and so the Iranian regime looks weak. I mean, for all these years, I mean, part of their reputation, particularly after the death of Khomeini, was that Iran is now becoming the kind of the regional power, a major regional power. Now it's not looking like any kind of a regional power. Israel, this little country of Israel, has pretty much free reign to attack whatever it feels like. I think it weakens. I'm not saying that necessarily that's going to lead to regime change, but it weakens the authority of the regime. And there's no question within Iran, there are a lot of American agents, a lot of people who've been in the West and been recruited by the CIA and whatever. I think they will seize this opportunity to make as much mischief as possible. And I think with hitting prisons, let's just release a bunch of murderers and rapists and try to make life as difficult as possible for ordinary people.
But we're both in agreement that if that is the strategy, and I think it is, it's still a pretty tall order.
Yep,
okay,
yep.
I mean, it's going to take a lot of time, and it's going to entail a lot of violence, a lot of assassinations, terrorism. It's a huge endeavor. And if you think this is going to be it's a 3-strike boom, we're out of here. We're we absolve ourselves. That's not going to happen.
No,
okay,
no,
and all the more so, everyone. As George and I are talking right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Iranian missiles are hitting Tel Aviv and Haifa again. The Israelis are going to say, let's kick in the next stage, Don. Let's get going. Okay, you've already committed yourself.
Yep.
You got your fingerprints all over this now.
Yep.
Don't stop now. Okay,
Yep.
It's time to really now do it. The iron glove. That's what we need. And there's a logic to that. Then you say, the Iranians will say, well, these 3 facilities are still in operation. We hoodwinked you. We took all the centrifuges out, got the people out. Did you see those trucks, those 12 trucks? They were moving all that stuff.
I want to come to that. That's a very interesting question. But before we come to that, now I agree. And the people who are screaming now, Mark Levin, John Bolton is gung ho. Yeah, suddenly he likes Trump. So they're all screaming, and they're saying, "Hey, look what Iran is doing to Israel. Iran is attacking Israel. Israel is under attack."
There you go.
From the Iranian regime, we have to. And once he's truthed this out, they'll say, "You said it. That you said we need to make Iran."
You're abandoning Israel.
You're abandoning Israel. Exactly. That's it. Now identified himself with the most extreme agenda, regime change in Iran. So he's that's what he wants to do. And
if you're going to shoot the king, don't miss.
Exactly. And particularly, I mean, if Iran, I assume Iran is going to keep hitting Israel in retaliation. The pressure is going to build more and more for Trump. You've got to go in. You can't just allow Israel. Israel is under attack. The chosen people are under attack. Now, the interesting thing is, which we've discussed, is what's going to happen with MAGA, with the people who had somehow had taken seriously Trump's claims that he is actually serious about keeping out of wars, and he's actually serious about addressing domestic issues. And the livelihoods of ordinary Americans, and not squandering trillions of dollars on pointless, stupid wars that don't do anything for America.
What we're seeing right now, we're to see what MAGA is really made of. Okay, it's being tested right now. Okay, it's Trump's immigration policies. Okay, in principle, MAGA is firmly, like 85%.
Right.
Okay, there'll be those who say, "Oh, it's a bit excessive. Do it a little bit differently."
Right.
On the whole, yes, I support the president. This is America. That's a policy where you can have an internal debate where everybody can go home with a smile on their face.
Right.
Okay, but with this is completely different. Yes, because we're seeing people coming. George and I spoke just briefly before this live stream. Like Steve Bannon, he wants to be in the tent, so he's gonna sheepdog people in.
Yes,
okay?
that's
Megyn Kelly in Lululand, she's gonna sing with. I never. Who's the guy that wears the beanie hat? Tim somebody.
Oh, Tim Pool.
Ken Poole. Well, you might need some adult diapers through all of this. It'd be a lot for you to deal with, okay? And then, do you really want to alienate people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen?
Yeah.
I mean, Candace Owen is a force of nature. Don't mess with her,
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
She's adored in the movement.
That's right.
Okay, I know you got some slides. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I have this going on. I mean, the issue then is, well, first of all, let's take a look at with Thomas Massey, because Thomas Massey, he was
Trump stepped in it big time. Ooh,
yeah, he's a very it's very he's a libertarian, and here he was yesterday. He was also with Margaret Beckett. And
welcome back to Face the Nation. Democrat Ro Khanna joins us from San Francisco, and here in studio is Kentucky Republican Thomas Massey. And good morning to both of you, gentlemen. I'll start with you, Congressman Massey. I know this is an unlikely pairing. You are on completely different ends of the political spectrum, but you both worked on this war powers resolution to prohibit U.S. forces from engaging in hostilities against Iran without authorization from Congress. The president just blew right past that.
Well, I think I represent part of the coalition that elected President Trump. We were tired of endless wars in the Middle East and tired of wars in Eastern Europe. And we were promised that we would put our veterans, our immigration policies, and our infrastructure first. And so what Ro and I did, we did this last week when, they were rattling the sabers because we saw this coming. We put forward this war powers resolution. I've teamed up with Ro Khanna before on this, to his credit. When Biden was president, we tried to rein in the exact.
Now, if you're like Donald Trump, do you want this guy in your tent or outside? George and I, we play all of these clips from these clowns.
Yep.
There's authenticity all over his face.
Exactly. Exactly.
It works. It works.
That's right.
You know why? Because he's not huffing and puffing like more.
That's right.
They have all the. Don't you know they have?
Right.
I don't. It's irrelevant. Look at this guy's presentation. Look.
That's right.
Ooh, smooth. Go ahead.
You're absolutely right. And remember, Trump has had problems with him before, and he tried to destroy him before. So this is, going back to 2020 when Massey, went against Trump when Trump put forward that COVID bill, that ridiculous, I don't know how many $1 trillion, economic, COVID, revitalize the economy bill. And he said, hey, you're adding to the debt. You're adding these huge sums to the debt. Paying people not to work is not a good economic model. And then Trump just really dumped on him as, I'm going to get him out. I'm going to, primary him. I'm going to destroy him. So this goes back a long way. Trump's threats against Thomas Massey.
And reassert Congress's authority, sole authority, to declare war and to engage or authorize the engagement of acts of war.
Something we talked to other lawmakers about as well in the Senate. I know there's efforts to support you, but the Speaker of the House, who is from your own party, has really rejected this. He says the Article 1 power of Congress really allows for the president to do this. It was a limited, necessary, targeted strike, he says.
Well, he's probably referring to the War Powers Act of 1973, but that's been misinterpreted. There was no imminent threat to the United States, which was what would authorize that. And I think that's peculiar to hear that from the Speaker of the House. Look, Congress was on vacation last week when all this was happening.
You haven't been briefed on any of
We haven't been briefed. They should have called us all back. And frankly, we should have debated this war powers resolution that Ro Khanna and I offered instead of staying on vacation and doing fundraisers and saying, oh, well, the president's got this under control. We're going to cede our constitutional authority.
So, yes, I think we could say that's right. Now, I don't think it's going to get anywhere, but it's, they always try this and it never works. because
That's important, George. Again, this is all being memorialized. There was a congressman that popped up in public and said, hey, this is not on. It's not legal. Okay, it's not what the base wants. You snuck it in the back door. This is going to be remembered, everyone, because just like all of these useless, senseless, wasteful wars, people are going to go, how did we get there? And then
Right.
Thomas, I can tell you exactly how we got here.
Right.
Okay?
That's
I mean, this is brilliant. And
Yeah.
there's going to be no amount of money that's going to primary him. This guy is going to
Yes.
be a hero.
That's right.
It's early hours, everyone. Just buckle up and brace for impact, because
That's right.
the truth players are already with us.
That's exactly right. That's absolutely right. Because they've tried this before. As I say, Trump tried to do this to him in 2020, and the point was Massey was right. It was a disaster. That whole COVID reflation bill was a disaster. It fueled the inflation that bedeviled the United States and the world for the next few years. He was right. He was against all of the COVID lockdowns and the restrictions. He was right. Trump was wrong. And AIPAC has also tried to destroy him. AIPAC has failed. He's from Eastern Kentucky. There's a lot of anti-authoritarian, anti-government people there. They don't like being told what to do by government. That's why Massey is so strong and so popular. Rand Paul is also from Kentucky. But anyway, Trump, as you might expect, he unleashed on Massey. And here's what he said.
He pounced.
That's right. Congressman Thomas Massey of Kentucky is not MAGA, even though he likes to say he is.
Mistake.
Actually, MAGA doesn't want him.
Mistake.
Doesn't know him and doesn't respect him.
Mistake.
That's right. I don't want you, I don't know you, and I don't respect you. He's a negative force who almost always votes no.
That's what a lot of people love about Massey. No.
That's right. Well, if it's a bad bill, you should vote no. I mean, the idea of just going along with it because the president told you to vote, well, that's not really what you were elected to do. No matter how good something may be, he's a simple-minded grandstander.
Oh, isn't that a little bit of projection there?
Who thinks it's good politics for Iran to have the highest level nuclear weapon.
That is so dishonest. And that's coming from the president of the United States. It's patently untrue. Even people that support the president's misguided policy would say, Mr. President, that's not true. Okay.
It's not true. And particularly coming from Trump, who had been accused for years of working for the Kremlin, of mouthing Putin's talking points and all the rest, all the things that they said about him. Oh, he's just working for the Russians and so on. For him to do this kind of smearing when he's been subjected to so much smearing.
Oh God, here we go. Look at this sentence again. It's like remedial 10th grade English. Keep going.
Yes. So he thinks it's good politics for Iran to have the highest level nuclear weapon, while at the same time yelling death to America every chance they get. Every chance they get. Imagine.
Who's doing the willing? He forgot the predicate.
He's forgotten the predicate, exactly. He's that problem because as the sentence reads, it sounds like Thomas Massey is doing the yelling of death to America. I mean, so he's kind of forgotten that you have to have the subject of that verb yelling, because as it reads, he thinks it's good politics for Iran while at the same time yelling. So that's what he does. It's Thomas Massey who's yelling death to America.
Remedial English, remedial.
That's right. Iran has killed and maimed thousands of Americans and even took over, again, remedial English is switched tenses here, using the past, switched from past present to the simple past. Took over the American embassy in Tehran under the Carter administration. So you're going back 50 years now? All right, great. We had a spectacular military success yesterday, taking the bomb right out of their hands and they would use it if they could. No, his language has become more and more hysterical and belligerent after all the smooth talk about, oh, they just can't. I mean, the only issue I have is they can't have nuclear weapons, but I absolutely love them. Can have normal relations. Now,
Donald Trump, Microsoft Outlook email.
Right.
It has spell checking. It has grammar suggestions. Write it out. And you can like create, compose. Okay, hit your compose and then paste it. You don't have to send it to anyone. Okay, it's like a grammar check for you. Okay, and all of these mistakes will be picked up. Okay,
that's right.
You really, really should do it because. So did Massey yell "Death to America"? Taking the bomb. You mean a real bomb, or
taking a bomb? That's right. But as usual, and despite all of the praise and accolades received, so the praise and the accolades who received the praise and the accolades? This lightweight congressman. So again, it's suggested it's this lightweight congressman. So he's a grandstander and a lightweight. Is against what was so brilliantly achieved last night in Iran. Massey is weak, ineffective, so he's weak and ineffective, lightweight, the grandstander, votes no on virtually everything put before him. Then he takes a swipe at Rand Paul. No matter how good something may be, he's disrespectful to our great military and all that they stand for. I mean, when has he shown any disrespect for the military? He's talking about invoking the War Powers Resolution. I mean, that may be a viable strategy, may not be, or maybe constitutional, may not be. But where is he disrespectful to the military? And not even acknowledging their brilliance and bravery in yesterday's attack, which was a total and complete win. Massey should drop his fake act and start putting America first. But he doesn't know how to get there. He doesn't have a clue. He'll undoubtedly vote against the great, big, beautiful bill, even though non-passage means a 68% tax increase for everybody and many things far worse than that. MAGA should drop this pathetic loser, Tom Massey, like the plague. The good news is that we will have a wonderful American patriot running against him in the Republican primary, and I'll be out in Kentucky campaigning really hard. MAGA is not about lazy, grandstanding, non-productive politicians, of which Thomas Massey is definitely one. Thank you to our incredible military for the amazing job they did last night. It was really special. Make America great.
Well, he just ensured that Massey will win.
That's right. Massey's already sending out fundraising letters. Hey, this is what the president wants to do to me. Hey, Well,
I don't know. I was going to say I shouldn't be spiteful, but yes, I should be spiteful. He should send this out to all English teachers in Kentucky, okay, and say we got to make American English great again, okay?
Make American English great again.
Just so debasing it. And plus, that just acting like a snot. It just
I agree. It's and so ridiculous. I mean, what Massey is saying, you made these promises, and the people who voted for me, these libertarians in Kentucky, that's what they thought they were voting for when they voted for you.
And that's why they voted for Massey.
That's why they voted for Massey. But anyway, so that's Massey. And of course, then Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a leading light in the MAGA movement, and then she sent out this quite lengthy tweet. And here's my thoughts on bombing Iran. I don't know anyone in America who has been the victim of a crime or killed by Iran, but I know many people who have been victims of crime committed by criminal illegal aliens or murdered by cartel and Chinese fentanyl drugs.
Okay, Elon, ban people from using caps from here on out. Okay, no more caps.
Yeah. I agree. almost everyone in our country can relate to this fact. Then, however, America has not dropped bunker busters on the cartel's sophisticated drug tunnels, launched tomahawks on massive cartel poisonous drug operations, or gone to war against the cartel's international terrorist network. Neocon warmongers beat their drums of war and act like Billy badasses going to war in countries most Americans have never seen and can't find on a map, but never find the courage to go to war against the actual terrorists who actually do kill Americans, invade our land, and make billions doing it day after day, year after year. And then I'm 51 years old, I'm Generation X. I've watched our country go to war in foreign lands for foreign causes on behalf of foreign interests for as long as I can remember. I was in 10th grade when Desert Storm started, and my father before me was sent to Vietnam in other senseless foreign war. America's $37 trillion in debt, and all of these foreign wars have cost America trillions and trillions of dollars that never benefited any American. American troops have been killed and forever torn apart physically and mentally for regime change, foreign wars, and for military-industrial base profits. And then I'm sick of it. I can easily say I support nuclear-armed Israel's right to defend themselves, and also say at the same time, I don't want to fight or fund nuclear-armed Israel's wars, nor any other country for that matter. I'm sick of funding foreign aid, foreign countries, and foreign everything.
And everything.
Yeah, and foreign everything. Yeah, that's
it. She's a Harry Truman would like her. Okay,
I think so. And you remember when she said, I think David Cameron. I think it was something about David Cameron had said something about he's disappointed in American politicians. It was something that they were isolationists like her, and she just said, "Well, David Cameron can kiss my behind." So, it's a very pithy.
Well, she had a run-in with like Sky News. She said, "Where are you from? What kind of accent is that?"
That's right. The Sky News. That was hilarious. This guy
was so funny.
Yeah, but there was something that she said that I thought that was particularly apt in this context. So it says, foreign country, foreign everything. I want to fund American interests and issues, and then. Then it goes on about the trade deals and so on. My kids, 22, 25, and 27. It pisses me off beyond comprehension that my children's generation can't afford to buy a house, can't afford insurance. I can also support President Trump and his great administration on many of the great things they're doing while disagreeing on bombing Iran and getting involved in a hot war that Israel started. That's not disloyalty. Critical thinking and having my own opinions is the most American thing ever. Now, the reason why I think that's interesting to point to is that Trump, who thinks that he's got everybody behind him, they're all just because they follow me. Not really. I mean, I think what she's suggesting here is that, well, we believe in America first. I mean, as long as you're the champion of America first, we will follow you. If you're not a champion of America first, we're not going to follow you. It's quite simple. That's the way it works in politics. It's the issue that's much more important than the man. I mean, if you're no longer America first, that's it. We're not going to follow you. I mean, why should we?
It's really amazing. Remember when Marjorie Taylor Greene came on the scene, how she was just smeared like few freshman congressmen ever. Right. It's amazing. She's a bit rough. Okay. Obviously. Right. But there's maybe need to be rough sometimes. And my hat tip to her. I don't agree with her on a lot of things. I think a lot of things that she supports, I think I would maybe support in a more nuanced way. But God bless that woman. Okay.
Well, that's it. And she's she's not a professional politician, and she doesn't speak, the way professional politicians speak, with all their evasiveness, like Mike Johnson. It's so evasive. You're never going to get an answer
nauseating. From him. He's so nauseating. But you know what? When Marjorie Taylor Greene goes, it was Massey told everybody when they're on vacation, they're fundraising. Okay, that's what they do. Okay?
Exactly.
And you know what? Right. I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene has any problem fundraising.
No, she's not at all. She's very popular. and she's won all of her re-elections with very, very comfortably, always increasing her margin. So the contrast between her and, say, Kamala Harris is stark. Kamala Harris is indeed a professional politician from the start. She's just been running for office. Right from a very early age. She's been running for office. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, she was a businesswoman. She'd done, various things in her life, and she has absolutely no interest at all in just playing this game. So Trump,
she's not afraid. And I think that's why
right.
people like her. She's not afraid.
That's right. Exactly. So Trump thinks that he can just glide by and express disdain. Hey, I invented America first, making a huge mistake there. Huge mistake. Anyway, let's take a look at our locals page. This is the page of the people who contribute to the dogs' upkeep. They want to make sure that the dogs have enough to eat. Just it's a major issue, as the dogs would say themselves. So Peter Nolan says, "Hi George, it must be really tough to come up with ideas to talk about. There being so little real news around lately." That's kind of, I think that's the point. I think Peter, you make that. There's just nothing to talk about.
What's new, George?
That's right. Nothing going on. So, Stone River, thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you for your generosity. It says, presumably symbolic because it symbolizes the repression of the regime. I guess that's what they mean when they say symbolic about Iran. It symbolizes, but presumably they don't really regard that as, hey, well, we want to symbolize repression, because we're repressive, and so we want to build things that symbolize our repression. So they may say Guardian or the Financial Times or the Washington Post may say, oh, it's symbolic.
Oh, okay, well, maybe one of those sleeper cells deep in the Midwest, they'll make their way down to El Salvador and blow up the Supermax prison. Okay.
And then Meg 2193 says, not going to see overwhelming force from me. That's a no overwhelming force. I think that's So, and then Vic Shakapopoulos says, George, say it again, bunker buster bombs, bunker buster bombs. Yeah, I love the alliteration.
I noticed that George likes to say that.
I like alliterations. Yeah, the bunker buster bombs. Do you have any other favorite alliterations? Well, of course, there was the
I have one of my favorites, Obama Rama Drama.
Oh, that's a good one. I like
Rama Drama. Here we go again, guys. We got a little bit more Obama Rama Drama.
That's right. But of course, 8
years of Obama Rama Drama.
Obama, that's very good. That's hard to say. That was very, very good. Very, very hard to say. But of course, you still have the master of it was, of course, Vice President Spiro Agnew, who coined all those terms, the nattering nabobs of negativism, and he was tired of pusillanimous pussyfooting. That was the master of this alliteration. So
he was hired for the job for a reason.
Yes, that's right. They were written for him by William Safire, whom I didn't care for. He was an awful Israel firster. But as long as Safire was, narrowly focused on writing speeches for Nixon and Agnew, he was okay. But once he became a columnist on the New York Times,
he ended up being a gun for hire.
Exactly. And then Stone River says, U.S. calls it a nuclear weapons program. Iran says it's a peaceful uranium enrichment program allowable under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, to which Israel and nuclear power is not a signatory. Absolutely correct. So that's exactly right. They claim it is. It's a nuclear weapons program, and which there's no evidence for. And Israel gets away. I mean, it's still a bit mystery how it gets away. Well, maybe it's not a mystery. It's not the right word, but it gets away essentially having nuclear weapons, not being a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, because everyone else is a member of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and not admitting to the world that it has nuclear weapons. Nobody else gets away with not admitting to the rest of the world that it has nuclear weapons, which means that they can simply evade all inspections, all arms control treaties, everything. So no one actually knows what exactly they have and the capability of delivering them. Yeah.
Go ahead. That's more important. Go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you very much, Stone River, for your contribution, for your generosity. The dogs will be happy to the extent they can be happy. Which, anyway, what were you going to say?
No, it's just interesting is that in waiting for the retaliation, I think we're going to be surprised because I think I know that the Iranian foreign minister was here today, and I think they're going to take their time. They're going to take their time. The whole world has watched an unprovoked attack on a major historic nation, and let's let that set in for the rest of the world. Okay, they're not the crazy mullahs that everyone has been told for decades. They're going to take their time. They're going to continue attacking Israel because Israel attacked Iran. The United States is this bizarre interloper. You don't have to close the Straits of Hormuz. All you have to do is do what the Houthis did. No, you can go through. You can't go around.
Right.
You know what? Right. Just doing that, the insurance company will say nobody goes through. That it's too expensive for us. They don't have to close it. They don't have to sink ships. Yep. They could. What I said to you and Mark yesterday, they will make the Trump administration pay. Not.
I agree. I agree. I think that's the key in what they want to do is raise oil prices. Oil prices, obviously, that's good for Iran, raising the price of oil, good for Russia, not good for Trump, not good for Europe, but they don't actually have to block the Strait of Hormuz. The insurance companies are already thinking about that.
Well, what about the Chinese? Well, Iran's like, well, do you have an escort for your ship? Sure, you can have your escort. Come on, right in. Okay. Right. American one? No. Israeli? No. You can't come in. This is a war zone. It's been made into a war zone by Israel and the United States. Right. We didn't make it that way. They did. Okay. Right. So, but China will object. Oh no, the Chinese. Go ahead, go right in. What's stopping them? We'll give you an escort.
Good. Okay. No, that's right. I think retaliating against the United States. That's a fool's enterprise, and that's exactly what the Mark Levins and Sean Hannity's want, because then that gives America the go-ahead for simply unleashing the bombs against Iran. So that I don't think they're going to do that. I think they will continue to retaliate against Israel, and then it will be up to Trump to make that. Are you ready to go to war, directly go to war on behalf of Israel? Now, Trump seems to be saying, I'm ready. But, from the indications here from Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I think Tucker Carlson hasn't said much, but I think he's going to, I'm sure, be saying a lot more in the next days. They say, you can't go and do that. You cannot. It's Israel. This is Israel's war. And this is far worse than anything George W. Bush did, because at least he claimed it was retaliation for 9/11. This is you're fighting for Israel. That's not going to go down well. If Trump was to go down that path, then I think it's really the beginning of the end of his presidency.
Okay, we have about a minute left. Should he be impeached?
Should he be impeached?
My question to you.
Should he be impeached? I would like to see it done, but I don't. But I think it will. Who knows? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's see what happens in about a year's time. Nothing's going to happen, for another, 18 months or whatever, because that's when the Democrats are going to move to impeach him. We'll see. He might become so unpopular and lose so much of his base that he might, it could be impeached and convicted. Yes. That's a possibility. If this war goes south, then conviction is a distinct possibility.
It's when it goes south. I'm sorry.
That's right. And just very quickly, let me just read out Mojo 1982. Hi, George and Peter. I hope you're both well. Thank you. Iran is of immense strategic and security interest to Russia. If Iranian government is toppled and replaced by a pro-Western one, then Russia's soft underbelly would be vulnerable. If the West captures Iran, then the West can project power and influence into the Caucasus, South and North, Central Asia, and perhaps the Volga region too. In the future, a Caspian Sea littoral state could join NATO. Well, that's without question
we need to have you on. We need to have you on as a guest. Okay.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Excellent comment.
All right. So we'll see in the next. Well, I guess we're going to be talking again, very shortly. Thank you, everybody who has joined us. Thank you for all of your questions and comments. Above all, thank you for, making sure that the dogs have something to eat. They're living off scraps. So thank you. We will be back very soon. My solo live stream tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, goodbye.